can have the strength to just get to your feet and go to the light, good things will happen.
Good morning to you. One step closer, perhaps, to getting the Oscar. The latest from a tearful Brendan Fraser at the Critics' Choice Awards overnight, where he won Best Actor, and quite right too. It's an amazing film, The Whale, an incredible performance. Before that, at 10 past, is King Charles right to be a wee bit scared of Prince Harry? We'll hear how a second book could scupper those rumoured peace talks. Also, now, if you're struggling to see your GP, and I know so many of us are, Dr Amir and Dr Hilary are going to be telling us the best way to get an appointment and to make the most of it when you do. And
I can't look as if I've joined your band. Do you think I could? I don't think so. I don't think so somehow. Now, well done you.
What am I wearing? Did I have no friends to say no? That was me with Eterno 30 years ago. In my defence, I was pregnant. At 5:30, Louise reveals how she'll soon be paying tribute to her former bandmates. Well, as we just said, Ross is live for us in Los Angeles later on. Hi, Ross.
Hey, good morning. Yep, Critics' Choice Awards. What else do we have from there? What about Kate Blanchett? We're getting an idea who might just win at the Oscars. She won twice, really, because she got an award, and also she got something from Julia Roberts. And I'm going to guess that nobody will be able to guess what it was. Oh, yeah, that's all coming up later, Lorraine.
I'll get us thinking. Thank you, Ross. Thank you so much. Now, we are kicking off Health Week this morning. Dr Hilary is right here in the studio and Dr Amir is live from his surgery in Bradford. Well, on the front pages this morning, the news that 2 in 3 voters think the NHS offers a bad service. Well, this comes as Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says the health service must reform or it will die. So, well, let's find out what our doctors make of these comments. I mean, Keir Starmer is all about reforming the NHS. Clearly something has to be done. What do you make of his plans?
First of all, I admire any politician who's prepared to admit that the NHS is in dire trouble and needs to change.
Sure.
That's brave and that's good. However, I think some of his suggestions are just no-brainers. Of course we need more midwives, more doctors, more nurses. Everybody knows that. We also need far more people in social care, doing domiciliary visits, health visitors, that sort of thing as well. But there was one particular item which I take huge exception to, which is the self-referral for specialist treatments.
Now, what does he mean by that?
What he means is bypass the GP. If you've got a backache, go and see a physio yourself.
Right.
Now, what this would mean is that the millions of people who every day have a backache would say, I know what, I'll go and get an appointment with a physio. So unless you had 100,000 more physios suddenly like that...
It's not going to work, is it?
It's not going to work.
No.
And actually, you're going to put to the back of the queue those people who need to see the physio most.
Ah.
The same is that he also mentioned internal bleeding, and I think by that he means if you're passing blood.
Right.
When you go to the loo or passing blood through your bladder, go to a specialist. The problem is the GPs are there to work out who is urgent, who needs to be seen, and who can be treated by the GP. Now, we don't have enough GPs. We're 4,200 GPs short compared to we were in 2015. Now, each one of those GPs that we've lost and we haven't replaced had 2,000 patients. That's 8.5 million.
Wow.
8.5 million appointments right there that we don't have. And that's why GPs are so very busy and inundated at the moment and can't see everybody.
No, and we're going to talk about that later in the programme. We're going to talk about how you can get an appointment, and when you get an appointment, you know, how you can really utilise that. Dr Amir, what do you think about what Keir Starmer's doing? Would you agree with what Hilary's got to say?
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with what Hilary said. I do think we need more clinicians, but we've got to remember when Keir Starmer says he's going to increase the number of placements at medical school and nursing school and midwifery school, we also need more people to train those people. And those people are usually the clinicians who are already working in the hospital and are already flat out. So he has to balance out those placements with the teaching that is needed at places like our GP surgeries and hospitals. He's also talked about tearing up the contract with GPs and renegotiating that contract. Whereas, you know, there's certainly some efficiencies to be made there. But if you take GP partners who are the people who do a lot of the work, you know, lots of people in, you know, general practice is made up of more than just doctors. There's lots of other clinicians. But GP partners do a lot of hidden work. So I am a GP partner. That means I own this building, I own the practice, and we have a contract with the NHS. But a lot of the work I do is outside of my hours, because part of that ownership of the business is making sure all the blood results are filed every day, all the letters are done. A lot of the educational stuff I do for medical students takes place outside of my working hours. But I soak all of that up because it's part of my job as a partner. If you move us all to contracts as salaried doctors with the hospitals, which is what he's talking about, I don't think a lot of partners will want to work in their own time like they're doing now, and they'll want that time in their contracted hours, which is what happens with a lot of kind of salaried doctors and locum doctors. And he'll lose all that hidden work, and there isn't the GP force to soak up a lot of that hidden work. I think the devil is in the detail. He really needs to, and I always say this, these people need to speak to us on the front line, and we can give them the reality of the situation. Speak to us, or better yet, Lorraine, get a health secretary who's actually got a health background.
Now, there would be a sensible thing. That would be incredibly sensible, because I've never understood that, how they just pluck people in it and there's a merry-go-round of you go from... How can you go from culture to education to transport to something else?
But the NHS is so complex. You need someone who knows how it works, and I don't believe many politicians know how the health service is meant to work. It's great to have a second opinion, isn't it? It's right here.
Love it.
And you know, things that frustrate me is we all know we need more GPs.
Yes.
I've heard of two students who've been paid £10,000 to postpone their training for a year because they haven't got the places in medical school.
What?
That's iniquitous.
Oh,
and they're not the only two either. That's happening all the time. So the government have capped the number of places at medical school. Why? It's absurd. This is urgent. We need to recruit people now.
Because even if you do recruit them now, it's going to take, what, 5-6 years
longer,
for that to...
Actually longer.
Is it longer than
for
that?
A qualified GP, 10 years.
10 years?
10. Yeah, by the time they've done their specialist training, at the end of their medical course, yeah, absolutely.
And in order to somehow make sense of the NHS, somehow get it back on track, we've got to have more GPs. You've always said that, and Dr. Mears said the same thing. More GPs are needed. They're the gatekeepers, as you said. Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'm not saying that medicine doesn't have to reform. I mean, there are inefficiencies. For example, someone goes to see their GP for a blood test, then they have to be referred to a phlebotomist, then the blood is sent to the hospital. It's quite cumbersome.
Yeah.
We could refine that. So, you know, if some GPs were attached to hospitals, for example, they could have the blood test same day, right there.
Be amazing, wouldn't it?
And if GPs' work has changed, which it has since I started in general practice, when we did house calls, a lot more house calls, and we did minor ops, and we did obstetrics, things have changed dramatically. So a lot of the work is done in the surgery now, in the clinic. And I believe that a lot of doctors are finding it less fun as a job. As a vocation, it's less fun because it's the computer, the protocols, and there aren't those... We're not running personal lists, we don't get to know our patients as well as we used to. People don't see the same doctor twice sometimes, so you have to start from scratch each time you have a consultation. That's time inefficient. That all could be refined so that there's that continuity of care. How many times have we spoken about children who've lost their lives to meningitis because the same doctor didn't see them to see the evolution of the disease? They went to the GP, then they went to A&E, then they went to another A&E, and each doctor saw them at different times and didn't see them getting worse.
Sure, so it's not
So
joined up.
continuity of care is absolutely key, and we've lost that for the time being.
No, you're right, and I know, Amir, you would absolutely agree 100% with all of that.